In this video, we're going to show you 8 of the most effective exercises to take your pancake flexibility from here all the way down to here.
I'm going to do a little activation routine just to kind of teach you the concept of anterior pelvic tilt. So when we're doing our pancake, we really want to make sure that we are isolating these hips and really exaggerating the pelvic tilt. It's going to help us compress and it's going to help us elongate that spine so that later we can get our chest flat to the floor. So what I do is I grab a stick and I'm just going to practice the hinging movement. So this is quite difficult if you lack mobility, and some of you are going to find that you end up being here and you're unable to open your shoulders further. That's okay. The more that you practice rep after rep, it's going to get better. So this is just to activate that anterior pelvic tilt, that hinge. And if I was to place a stick onto your spine, it should stay straight. So your spine should be connected to the stick the whole time. And I just move in and out of this position. I perform 10 reps and I hold the last position or the last rep for 10 seconds. As soon as I'm done that, I'm going to go into a wider straddle and I'm going to do that again. So now I get a lot more range of motion. Now my adductors and my hamstrings are involved a lot more as well. And I'm really trying to hinge in the hips, thinking about pushing my tailbone to the sky and thinking about keeping my knees locked. This is just opening up the whole spine from the shoulders all the way down to the ankles. So I'm going to complete 10 of these and then I'm going to pause for 10 seconds in the last rep. Again, you get as low as you can. If your limit is here, before you start to lose, that's fine, you hold it. Eventually, the more mobile you get in those hips, the lower you will get. So I'll hold it here. And finally, I'm going to go into this horse stance squat position, hands overhead, and then I'm going to hinge and come back up. Hinge, lock the knee, so I'm in this straddle position again, and swing back. So I'm really warming up those hips, lower back, spine, and teaching myself how to keep that compression in the hips, how to keep the anterior pelvic tilt, and warming up my whole body. 10, and then I'm going to pause for 10 seconds in this squat position. If you're unable to squat that low, here is fine also. And I'll just practice again, hinging up. Just moving that spine. And hold. So that's the third movement. And finally, I'm going to come down to the floor where my pancake should be. And I'm not going to worry too much about the spine this time. I'm just going to think about folding and reaching. However low I get is fine. I want to extend my arms out like I'm pushing the stick away. And thinking about getting my belly button to the floor. Driving away. If you're currently here, that's okay too. Just keep going. It's more so dynamic in nature, where each rep you're going to find that you get lower and lower and more range. Don't worry too much about the legs if they're internally or externally rotated. We don't need to worry about that now. We're just trying to warm up the motion. 10 reps. And then holding for 10 seconds in the last rep. And after that activation, you should be on fire.
Okay, here's another little activation routine that we can do before getting into the strength portion of our workout. So I'm gonna sit on this little box here. If this is too hard, you can elevate it even a little bit more. If it's too easy, you can do it from the ground, okay? So I'm gonna sit in my straddle position. I'm gonna start off just by doing reps. I want to try and keep my back arched. I'm not going to round. I'm not aiming to get my chest and head to the ground here. I'm aiming to get my belly button to the ground. 8, 9, 10. Then I'm going to take my left hand, reach over to my right foot, okay? And then what I want you to do is bring your head through and look up at the sky. Just gonna hold this and I can do little pulses. If I can't reach my foot, I'm gonna just reach as far as I can, aiming to grab the foot. And the other side. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, both hands, I'm gonna reach to the outside of one of my foot, my right foot, and then I'm gonna just glide across here to the other side. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, then same thing, except I'm going to pulse this time instead of glide. So start on the outside and pulse all the way to the other side. Instead of glide. So start on the outside. 1, 2, 3, 4, sliding off. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you can repeat that for 2 to 3 rounds, okay? You should feel this in the hamstrings by now.
Alrighty, so for the first strength exercise, we're gonna do the seated good morning. Now, this box is quite low, so obviously you guys would not start there if you haven't had much experience with like pancake work. You would probably start on a bench press, a lot higher, or even just a standing straddle good morning. So I will take this weight, place it onto my shoulder blades, and then I'm gonna try to make sure that I'm sitting exactly on my sit bones. So arch my lower back, remember those activation drills I did in the beginning with the stick, and then I'm just gonna lower until my belly button and my chest touches that box, and then I'm gonna pull back up. So you're gonna notice how I'm really using my feet for resistance here. So I'm pushing against that ground, trying to elongate my spine even more, and trying to think about lifting the tailbone up. So you want to think more about getting your belly button to the floor or to the box rather than your chest. So you want to hinge, fold in half, drive. And by pushing your feet hard into the ground, you're activating your adductors, which is also very important in your pancake work. So I just go up and down in a dynamic fashion. As I said, the goal is to get your belly button down, and you can use the box as a measure. So when you touch your chest down, that's 1 rep. I'll complete 10, and then I'm going to pause in this bottom position where it hurts for 10 seconds. I'm staying active, not relaxing, using my muscles, pushing the floor with my feet, and standing. And from here, I can add load or I can reduce the height of the box. So at this point, for my next set, I'm going to reduce the height, I'm going to go to the floor, and then I'm going to add some load to the barbell. That's your seated good morning.
Okay, this is one of my favorite exercises for the pancake and just hamstring flexibility in general. I'm gonna take 2 boxes, can be even 2 benches, and stand on it so I can basically get down low. So I'm gonna hold this weight here, start with maybe a 10 kilos, and I'm basically gonna do exactly what Vanya just did, but from a standing position. So my quads are gonna stay tight, my knees are gonna stay locked, and my feet are gonna be facing 45 degrees out. So they're not like straight ahead, they're out just a little bit. I'm gonna hold this weight, and as I come down, I'm gonna fold at the hip, bum is going towards the sky, so my back is staying arched. I think belly is leading this, belly button is coming down first. And as I come down, I'm gonna reach as far in front of me as I can with the weight. Keep my quads tight, and then I'm gonna drive my feet into the box to bring myself back up. Last one. I'm gonna hold for 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Back up. And then come down. Oh, my hamstrings are on fire. I'm gonna go 3 sets of this. 6 reps. I like to do 6 reps with weight. And just remember to hold that last rep for 10 seconds.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna do my variation of a pancake good morning. Now, because I'm quite flexible, I like to add a lot of load to my mobility training. And I'm not moving through the full range of motion, I'm actually just practicing the end or the top range here. As you can see, I'm just coming down until my hip touches the ground, or my belly button, and then coming back up. It's also because this weight gets in the way a little bit, or the plates do. So if you're using 5 kilos, just try to find a smaller plate that can allow you to get a little bit more range. So I try to think about arching my lower back, sitting on my sit bones, and really pressing my feet into the ground. This is very intense on the adductors because I'm really activating the legs, keeping the quads engaged, locked, and then using that. So this is essentially very much working the hip flexors, the top range of the movement. And also affects the lower back a lot. I find that it builds really good strength in the glutes, the lower back, and the hips. So here, I'm in the bottom, I'm still active, I'm not relaxing at all. I'm using my strength, and then I'm gonna pull up. So you want to try to initially use less weight until you get accustomed to the feeling of controlling the weight. And as you build more confidence, you can increase. This is only 30 kilos.
Only 30 kilos.
Only 30 kilos. So it is heavy, but you know, I always feel like I'm in control of the movement, and it helps me just develop that joint strength, joint integrity, because I am pretty flexible and I want to work on that strength part of the top range and the bottom range of my movements. So this one flows really nicely from the one that Josh did on the boxes, because that one kind of elongates you, stretches you out, and this one kind of solidifies that end range of the hips. I wouldn't really do this for a beginner. Beginners would start with standing straddle good mornings, loaded, so they develop the hinge pattern in a standing position. So this is a lot safer for beginners, and they can load this with a lot of weight. And then go to the seated one that you saw me do before on a bench, and then eventually to the floor, lower and lower, as you increase your flexibility. So, you know, it's just different ranges. This is your range in the standing position. You want to be able to like lower the box as you get more comfortable until your range is here. So you are both strong and flexible, and you've just grooved that movement pattern on the floor. That's all it is. So you can see how it flows nicely from the top to the bottom, but the concept remains the same. The one that you did on the boxes flows really nicely into this one. It connects the dots, which will now flow really nicely into the straddle ups that we're going to be using our strength to actually move through the ranges. So let's do it.
Next we have a straddle up, okay? But I like to add an element of good morning into it, which is what we were working on earlier in the video. So I'm gonna take this barbell, I'm gonna sit on a bench like this, lower the surface, the harder it's gonna be. First of all, I'm gonna hinge at the hips, bring my belly button down to the bench, and then from here, I'm gonna drive the heels of my feet into the ground to bring myself up to a standing straddle position. Then I'm gonna reverse the movement. Come back, end up with the belly button on the bench, and back up. So fold and stand. Fold and sit. 3. When I do this, or when I come back down from the movement, I don't want to just sit back down like this. I want to be very controlled. So I want to really come down slowly and always be in control of the movement. I can obviously make it harder by loading up the weight a little bit more, and I can make it easier just by doing body weight. I'm gonna do 8 reps of this, and I would just like to hold this bottom part here for 10 seconds at the end. Come back up, and you will feel this in the adductors.
All right, so now we move on to the straddle ups. Now, this is like the finale. After you've done all your strength work, you're gonna come and you're gonna combine that through like movement. So we're using all of our ranges, all of our strength in the joints to kind of dynamically move through the motion. So if it's too difficult for you to do it off the floor, you can take a box or a little step and sit on it, which will make the movement a little bit easier. It's gonna allow you to hinge a little bit less range so that you can stand up easier. The concept is that you wanna hinge, go into that sort of pancake good morning. Remember the cues of using your legs, so pressing your feet into the ground, and then you're gonna use your hands to stand up into a straddle. So I'm here, I'm using my hands, I'm coming up into a straddle. Obviously you need to have some sort of a solid split in order to come to this position. So as I said, if you are less flexible, you're gonna elevate your butt, which is gonna ensure that you stay up higher in your straddle and you don't have to involve as much range. So I'm really using my joints and I'm using my adductors and I'm using my legs to help me stand up. There's not much use of my hands here. The hands are there just to assist. And this is on fire. So make sure that the floor that you're using is not slippery because you want it to be grippy. You can't do this movement in socks because you're gonna slip. Okay. And I come back to the ground very softly. I don't just fall back like this. I take my time to hinge, to slowly sit back down. After I've done 10 reps, I'm gonna hold this top position for 10 seconds. And you can see there's an element of split work as well here. So you're gonna be training your splits at the same time. As I said, you can use a box. So I will demonstrate here. For the less mobile people, and you'll still get a very good workout from it. So not too big of an elevation. I still want to make sure those adductors are working. And if I'm using my box here to help me push off, it's going to make it even easier. So I'm following that same concept. See here, boom, I'm a little higher now, so it becomes a little easier. I look for the box, sit back down. So you can see how it flows nicely into the movement that Josh did on the bench, because it's a similar concept. But now it's a lot harder because you have to move through it You have to use your strength in all of the ranges. You have to use your muscles to support yourself. And we hold for 10. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is your straddle up. This one really burns. Burns the adductors, especially the ankles. So it's going to involve ankle mobility. It's going to require your knees to be strong. It's going to require your hips to be strong. It's going to require that you practice that hip hinge. So it all comes together into this kind of dynamic movement, which is amazing for not only helping you with your pancake, but also with your middle splits.
Okay, we're going to finish with some compression. So I'm going to start in a seated position with my legs straddled. Ideally, I'm going to sit on the ground. If I can't sit on the ground with my back upright, you want to elevate the surface, okay? So if you kind of like can only sit like this, then you want to elevate the bum until you can sit with your body upright. From here, I'm going to have one hand either side of my leg, one leg at a time, and then I'm essentially going to lift this up and down. Now, this looks easy, but I promise you this is way harder than it looks. It's going to humble the strongest of people. So the further forward my hands are, the harder it's going to be. The closer to my body, the easier it's going to be. So if I start here, I'm going to point the toe, squeeze the quad, keep the knee locked, and I'm going to lift for reps. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, hold. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's one. If you feel cramping when doing this, that's perfectly normal. Okay, now we're gonna do other leg. I'm gonna go a bit further forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 8 reps each side. And then we're gonna do both legs at the same time. Stretch it out a little bit if you feel yourself start to cramp. And then I'm gonna go hands in the middle on both legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Really keep the core tight. This is really good core work, core stability. But it's also like really isolates the hips, the hip flexor. You're gonna feel your hip flexor start to burn. So you can do 3 rounds of this. If you find this too hard, again, for the single leg, bring your hands further back. And for the double leg, you can even put your hands behind you to make it a little bit easier. Okay, what you wanna avoid doing is like doing like a crunch where you bring your body up and you use momentum. You wanna really isolate the hip. Okay, so if I'm here, I don't wanna be like this. Okay, you wanna just keep your body, upper body completely still, and only the working leg is moving. Okay, so if it's both working legs, it's gonna be like that. Okay, so that's our pancake compression to finish off with. My legs are on fire. Not only is this gonna help you get your pancake flexibility, but it's also a really good lower body mobility workout. So you can make this a lower body day by itself. You don't really need to add much else.
And the exercises that we have shown you are great progressions towards building that hip strength, that mobility, range of motion. So if you're a beginner and you're currently feeling very limited in your body, start slow. Start with body weight, and session to session, you're gonna add more range, add more reps, hold the positions longer, lower, and then gradually start to add load. As you can see, our mobility training is very much like strength training. It requires a lot of effort, intensity, and we're pretty cooked right now. So, you know, stay consistent and you will get your pancake.
Depending on how much time you have for the workout, you can do 2 sets of everything that we went through, or 3 sets. Okay, I'd recommend doing more than 1. So you probably want to allow yourself 30 minutes, 40 minutes for a workout like this.
Yeah, solid workout, 30, 40 minutes, in and out, you're done.
You don't need much equipment though.
You can even use household props. So use anything that you have available at your home. You know, weight plates, you can use bottles, you can use sticks, and you can load like ankle weights onto them. Whatever you have available, yeah, get creative.
Let us know in the comments how you get on.